YouTube, Terry Carter here. I want to thank everybody that watched, liked, and shared my latest video, Grand Canyon Egyptians. There's more to the story and we're finding out what it is. That let me know from the amount of views and likes that we got, there's a lot of people that are interested in the Egyptians in the Grand Canyon, and I want to tell you why I believe that it's possible that the Egyptians were in the Grand Canyon, not only in the Grand Canyon, but in the western United States. Sometime in the early 90s, I became aware of an Egyptian artifact that was found in Pocatello, Idaho. It was a piece of alabaster rock that was the size and shape of a chicken egg, and it had some markings on it. This egg was found in 1918, this rock egg, by a young girl. For whatever reason, she kept it all her life, and when she became older, she developed cancer. Anyways, her granddaughter was there visiting her, and she happened to come across it, so she gave it to her granddaughter. That granddaughter kept it all her life because it was something special that was given to her by her grandmother before she passed away. In 1977, this lady, Kathy Kincaid, was in the dentist's office, and this was the time that King Tut's tomb was making its rounds in the United States, the artifacts out of his tomb, and the Smithsonian Magazine put out an article on it, and Kathy was in the dentist office and reading that Smithsonian article, and she seen in there the exhibits of King Tut's tomb, and that there was markings, the exact same markings that was on this egg that her grandmother gave her. The exact same markings was on King Tut's tomb. Well, all these years from 1918, they always thought that these things were Indian markings that were on this egg. So anyway, she took this egg down to the University of Berkeley and had them look at it, and they authenticated that it was a piece of alabaster that came from Egypt, and that the markings on this egg was King Tut's high priest signature on one side of the rock and the cartouche of his name on the other. Now keep in mind that they didn't break into King Tut's tomb until 1922, yet this Egyptian alabaster egg was found in Pocatello, Idaho in 1918 before they ever knew anything about King Tut. So just the two things was found, the egg and that rock?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's whatever it is. I have no idea.
Huh. Wow.
Strangest looking thing you ever saw, but it's pretty, so I kept it.
Yeah, really.
I'm amazed that I kept these things, too. I threw them in my dresser drawer. I was young when she gave them to me.
Oh, really?
So I just kind of threw them in my drawer thinking, oh, how cute.
Yeah, that is amazing you kept it, because I know all that stuff I had, I've thrown away.
Well, you know how I was sitting in the dentist's office and reading the Smithsonian Magazine. And an article just came out about the opening of King Tut's tomb.
Oh,
And I saw the same cartouche on all of his artifacts that was on my egg. And
wow.
That's the only way I ever knew anything about it, or that it even was Egyptian, but it is definitely Egyptian alabaster. So how it got to Idaho, I probably will never know.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have the money or the inclination to have it. So, but it is Egyptian alabaster. So,
well, that's
who knows how it got there, but it sure is interesting.
Yeah, that is. So,
well, I have the copy of the letter from the doctor at Stanford University.
Oh, really?
I'll send it to you too.
Well, I appreciate that.
Now, he did most of that. I'll send you a copy. He did most of that work that he wrote the letter to me. And he said that it was definitely Egyptian writing, but it was, kind of crudely done. I was a little bit skeptical, especially when that one guy kept saying, want to sell it, want to sell it.
Yeah.
Let me take this into the back room, he said.
Is that right?
Said, not without me.
Yeah. Well, that was good thinking. Yeah, I wouldn't trust anybody, especially all the stories I've heard.
I'm a little more skeptical, I think.
Yeah, that, and then also, that if you don't let them, then they come out and they say it's a fraud. Exactly. It's a phony. And
fine, let him, that's fine. You know where it came from and how you got it, and that's...
Well, he had
who cares
started to give me a lot of information about it. You know, telling me that it was definitely Egyptian alabaster, at least 500 years old. Then when he asked me if you want to sell it, and I said no, all of a sudden the information quit.
Yeah.
Like, well, then I'm not going to give you any more information.
Yeah.
You're going to sell it to me.
That's how they play them. If they can't have it or find it or, that's how they do it. Well, that's interesting. I'm excited to hear it was from Pocatello. If you could draw me a sketch of what they look like or send me pictures on that, I'd be curious too to see if...
I have some really nice black and whites I had done professionally by a photographer. That shows everything in detail, and I believe they'll copy real well on a copy machine.
Okay,
so I'll send that to you.
That would be great.
Professor Barry Fell, in his book Saga America, on page 78, found out about this Egyptian rock egg, and he feels that it could possibly have been brought over here on an Iberian ship. Also in Professor Barry Fell's book Saga America, he shows on page 102 some petroglyphs near Vernal, Utah, which in my mind are the most spectacular petroglyphs in all of the United States. Anyways, he researches these petroglyphs and he claims that these things were of a warlike people, and he figures that they were by the depicting the Libyans. Now here's some photographs of these petroglyphs near Vernal, Utah. They are spectacular. These aren't your regular Indians. These guys have crowns. They've got breastplates. They've got jewelry. They got earrings. They're adorned. These things don't look like your regular Indians to me. These things look like Aztec or Egyptian or something like that, but these are definitely not your regular Indians. Now, about 30 miles from this site, and on the Ute Indian Reservation, there's this carving on a rock, which looks like a bust of an Egyptian lady to me. I'm not sure, but what do you think? And then about another 30 miles from this site is this Egyptian-looking cat to me. Is it Egyptian? Don't know, but it's definitely interesting. There's been a lot of interesting things reported in the Uinta Mountains, and this is all part of the Uinta Mountain Range. But it takes me back to when I interviewed Ron Sweat. The video was called Ancient Egyptians Were in Utah. Tribal Elders Share Their Oral History. And this is an interview I did with Ron Sweat when he talks about how his dad was visited by an old Ute elder and would tell him come over and visit, every now and again, and tell him all kinds of interesting things. And one of the things he told him was that there was Egyptian-like people that was in the Uinta Mountains mining gold. Now let's jump over to near Durango, Colorado, about 30 miles away, where this Egyptian-looking scarab was found by a 5-year-old boy in 1954 in the shape of an Egyptian scarab. So I posted this on a Yahoo group on ancient artifacts, and I posted a picture of it, and the first comment that I got was fake and badly done. A lot goes into telling it's a fake, but in this piece it's the hieroglyphs that, for one, are nonsense, and two, it would be like you reading a gravestone written by a 3- or 4-year-old. In my belief, I don't like how it looks. On top of what has already been said, I don't like how the side is. It looks clumsy. So I was thinking that this was obviously a fraud, but who put this fraud there in 1954? But then I got this from an ancient arts dealer, an antiquities dealer out of Dubai. And he says, logically, if anyone wants to fake a piece like this, he would try his best to make the inscriptions look as much as possible as the typical hieroglyphs you usually see. And that's exactly right. If you're trying to perpetrate a fraud, you're going to make it look like it reads something. Then he goes on to say, the crude inscription is maybe because it was made in a later period and inscribed by the magician himself. Symbols probably intended to mean something which the magician understands alone. All of this is just guessing. I did not really study such types in any way. Again, in other words, I cannot say the piece is fake. It might be good. This is my humble opinion. Then he studies it some more and he says, looking again at the scarab, I think it's real. Not 100% sure, but from pictures I cannot see anything wrong with it. I handled similar magic amulets, which I used to attribute to the Roman period. Amulets mostly in the form of intaglios. And some of those intaglios do come from all over the Levant area also. Then another person says, well, why would later magical amulets, even from the Levant, have a crude inscription of the name of Tutmosis III, which is on this piece at the bottom? So obviously Tutmosis III's name is written on this Egyptian scarab. P.S. I seen in hand many magical scarabs inscribed in various languages from around the Mediterranean, though none in false hieroglyphs. And another guy says, pretty easy to condemn, but during the Roman through Middle Ages, similar were done as magic amulets, so not necessarily recent. Microscope the surface to see if there are any calcite crystals in the cracks. And another says, I agree with Dr. Smith, and the stone type is very similar to later magical amulets, but again, I have never seen such magic amulets in scarab shapes, usually intaglios. So here we have the experts that don't agree. Some say it's an obvious fraud and it doesn't make sense, yet we have some other experts that saying that it looks good. So how do you really know when even the experts don't agree? So Utah Jessup, the Heart and Soul with the Ancient Historical Research Foundation, did an article on this Colorado Egyptian scarab, and it was ran in the Ancient American magazine, in issue number 108. She interviewed archaeologist Frank Parrish, and this is what he had to say. The scarab is a very interesting find and has several things in its favor. The size of the black Colorado scarab is correct for a good luck charm and matches those from Egypt. Also, when the Egyptians wrote the language casually, they would write the opposite directions of English from right to left, with the hieroglyphs facing the front of the words to the right, or vertically from top to bottom, as on the back of this piece. The Colorado scarab has this correct. I don't know if it has anything to do with anything looking Egyptian or not, but about 30 miles away from where this Egyptian scarab was found is this mummy carved in relief, about 6 inches deep into the stone. The kids have found it and spray painted it. And around the corner from this is this lion carved into the stone. Is it related? I don't know, but there's a lot of interesting things out there that I would like to know the answers to. So, if you've seen any interesting things like this, or you know of any interesting things like this, share it with us, because somehow all this may tie together or may be a clue to help you figuring out what went on. Now, as far as being fraud out there, there is no doubt in my mind there is a lot of fraud out there. I know a guy in Utah that specifically does a lot of fraud for notoriety and things like that. So I'm interested in out-of-place archaeology, but I'm not dumb enough to believe that everything is real. But I want to know for a fact if it's real or not. I'm just not going to take somebody's word for it that it's a fake, you know. So leave your comments. Let me know what you think. Thanks.